My wife and I, we live in Guayaquil, and I drive the Ruta la Costa, or Road to the Coast, to get to our job sites on the coast in the Pacific Ocean View province of Santa Elena. En route, I pass many little roadside towns that specialize in a specific trade. For example, the Pueblo Vatahualpa. They build doors, millwork, furniture. About 40 years ago, a carpenter settled there, opened shop. It went well for him. His family joined the business, and eventually other carpenters started to settle in around him and imitate the trade. And now, 40 years later, everybody in town is a carpenter, and every storefront sells furniture, doors, some sort of millwork. Maybe another 5 to 7 kilometers down the road, there's San Rafael. They sell something entirely different. They sell granito. Not granite, not in the sense that we know of it as slabs of very hard stone, but in its literal meaning of grains. Although there's no sign on the road, you will know when you pass San Rafael because the interstate shoulder is lined with lean-tos where young men hawk bags of gravel. When I first saw it, I thought it was bags of rice. Some of the young men set up early and stay very late, laying on hammocks, wallowing and waiting the long hours under the sun. Every once in a while, a construction truck stops and buys a load of the bags of gravel used to make a finishing layer for concrete slabs, including patios, driveways, and sidewalks. It's common to see the granito finish as you walk about town, and I'd been curious about how it was done. So, when our contractor, Javier, suggested we finish the driveway in our house with granito, I said, yeah, mainly to see the process. It's very similar to terrazzo used in public spaces in the US, but without the final grinding and polishing. You rarely see a ready-mix truck in Ecuador, especially on a small project. On most job sites, the most advanced piece of equipment is a gas or an electric cement mixer. The concrete hauled up sometimes 10 stories, bucket by bucket. On our job site, the concrete is mixed the truly old-fashioned way. In a small heap resembling a volcano, with sand in a ring and a hole at the center, into which cement and water are placed, and then the sand is gently folded and mixed with a shovel. Because of the small batch mixing, slabs go down slowly, concrete lugged in 5-gallon paint buckets, dumped and then spread with a shovel, ironed out by hand with brick trowels. Customers in the US, they would not accept the final product. But here in Ecuador, enter granito. It serves to provide a better looking finish, albeit with a bunch of extra work. On top of a pretty rough-looking driveway, our contractor, Javier Gonzalez, uses a water level to place lengths of aluminum rail over lumps of mortar, creating a grid that he calls the teacher. The aluminum rails serve as both float strips and expansion joints, as well as creating a decorative pattern. In our case, it's just rectangles. Javier shows me the grade of granito chosen for our job, number 3. There are several grades or gravel sizes available, larger and smaller, with number 2 and number 3 the most popular for exterior flat work. Sometimes different grades are combined, alternating for more interesting patterns, which you can see in the sidewalk, combining 2 grades of granito to create the contrasting diamonds. The various grades of granito, from fine sand to coarse gravel, are separated very much as we do it in the USA, sifted through various sieves or screens, but only in a more primitive way, entirely by hand. Behind the roadside stands in San Rafael, you can see sand mining in action. The town was built on the banks of a dry riverbed where locals can extract clean sand and gravel without the problematic sea salt so common in local sands. When salty seaside sands are used in reinforced concrete, the sodium chloride reduces the structure's durability, with reinforcing steel corroding at much higher rates than normal. This is one reason for the high level of destruction wrought by Ecuador's 2016 earthquake, the preponderance of cheap sea sands used in construction. Salt crystals will also corrode and pit the finish and destroy the concrete. So although the sands of San Rafael cost more because you have to buy them than simply digging up the seashore for free, good contractors in any part of the world look for suitable materials that won't deteriorate prematurely. Hence, the folks at San Rafael can make a meager living selling the sands under their homes.
¿Y esta piedra dónde sale?
A young worker, Angel, shows me the process. He has several jigs with 2 screens. After removing all the large stones by hand, the grain shoveled into the jig that don't sift through the first screen represent the coarser aggregate, in this case number 3 gravel. The grains or granito that fall through the first screen and get caught in the second screen are the number 2 gravel, and then on the ground, what's left is construction sand. The granito is mixed with sand and cement to create a heavy aggregate-rich paste. But to make sure the granito or gravel will adhere to the Portland cement and clean up nicely in the final stages, Javier rinses the granito on a washing jig, bag by bag, before it's blended into the admixture. First, a bed of rough mortar is laid over the concrete drive to level the surface to a point right at about a centimeter below the screed strips. That translates into about 3/8 of an inch. Workers place the admixture in alternating parallel ribbons, allowing them to screed and finish the matching sections one at a time. As one finisher smooths the surface, another one comes from behind and washes it with clean water to expose the aggregate. It takes at least 2 days to finish the process due to the alternating strips. In our case, we finished the first set of strips on Friday and returned Monday to comfortably lay down the second set of parallel ribbons. After the granito's been placed, the driveway sets over 3 weeks into a dull chalky gray, and then it's time to bring out the shine with a thorough acid wash. Javier mixes a witch's brew of 1 part muriatic acid, 1 part bleach, and 1 part Disma Lavador 501, an Ecuadorian masonry cleaner, and 2 parts potable water. He pours the steaming home brew over the concrete surface and then quickly rinses it off with a power washer, leaving a clean and pleasing exposed aggregate finish. The process and finish resembles what we call terrazzo, minus the epoxy in the admixture and the final steps of machine grinding and then polishing. Some folks will follow up with a clear polyurethane finish to preserve the wet look, but we won't.